How'd you get started standing on one leg, that style, doing that?
The money was right then as well. Actually, how that came about was total accident. That was another example of resisting the way something was going image-wise, because I started off at in the Marquee Club, where we got a residency, and we became, Jethro Tull became the identity then.
And who else was playing at that club at the time?
What bands?
Yes.
Oh, well, I mean, at the same time as us, it would be Joe Cocker, Yes, John Mayall, and whoever he had in his band at the time. Fleetwood Mac were around. That was very much contemporaries of ours, yeah. The Nice, who later on evolved into Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Had Led Zeppelin already hit?
Zeppelin had already just about done it. They were just kind of happening about that time, but aiming more at the USA. They had a very brief spell at the Marquee. But yes, everybody you ever heard of from that period of time at some point was a Marquee Club resident act. It was just so much the breeding house of everything of that, not quite the first, but the extension of that first wave of English rock and roll that came over here.
What was that atmosphere like, being in a club with all those musicians and hearing that? Could you tell, like, hey, these guys are going to make it, or, this is a great sound, or was it just like going to work?
No, I think you didn't know something was happening, because if I had a day off, I would go to the Marquee Club. I would carry the amplifiers in for the other guys in order to get in without paying. I mean, we're only talking about $1 ticket price or something, But it was just a matter of honor that you'd never paid if you went to the Marquee, if you were one of the resident bands. So I used to sneak in the back door.
When Led Zeppelin broke, did that give you guys incentive or impetus to,
Well, it actually gave us more than that. What it gave us was a 35-minute opening slot on Led Zeppelin's first arena tour in the U.S. In '69, which was a terrific exposure for Jethro Tull. I mean, we went on. I mean, they had a lot to prove. We had nothing to lose. So 35 minutes, you can go crazy,
Were you well
playing the flute or whatever. Yes, we had a very good time, and once or twice, somewhat at the expense of Led Zeppelin, who maybe had an off night for whatever reason. And of course, we got some good reviews out of it. On many occasions, I'm sure quite unwarranted, but it was just that, as you say, you can go on and go really crazy if you only have to do it for 35 minutes. At the age of 21 or 22 or something, there's a lot of energy around, so we used it. But the standing on one leg, we never covered that.
Well, we're going to come back and do that.
We're going to come back.
We're going to come back and do that. I'm talking with Ian Anderson of Jethro Tull, and we'll be right back after this.
All guests of Night After Night are ensconced in the Mobley Hotel. 16.5 deluxe units located in Short Wheeler, New Jersey. Flagship of a burgeoning recreational empire, the Mobleys, the home of the bottomless cup of Tang, now with soap. Back to you, Ian and Al.
Thank you, Nick. I'm here with Ian Anderson, Jethro Tull. The new album is called Catfish Rising. How are things going at the Mobley?
Well, if I didn't have the bridal suite, I could be in trouble, but it's really not too bad at all. I hear the jacuzzi is a little rusty, but it's not too bad. The squash court has not been used for a while, and certainly not hosed down since the last occupant. But it's pretty good. I mean, I know what you guys are on about. It's a reasonable place, but for God's sake, if you only go for the bridal suite, anything else, I pass open doors, it doesn't look fun in there.
Okay. Let's talk about the one leg now. Standing on one leg, you were going to tell me a story about that?
Well, yes, it was in the Marquee Club that I suppose that started. And I mean, the standard gag is, why do you stand on one leg? And I, ended up sort of defensively saying something about, having, put on a little weight and, having not fed, you see, as a starving musician. And once I actually got a weekly wage, I was able to actually expand the waistline a bit by regular intake of food, this rare commodity, which I was not familiar at the time. And the underpants got a bit tight, so going for the high notes, you see, it caused an involuntary reaction. And so that was the defensive sort of, response to why do you stand on one leg. The truth of the matter was I really wasn't aware that I was doing it. It was just one of those things you do, with
you were caught in the moment.
A mannerism. So, yeah. But then people started writing about it, and then you would see a photograph that people would then wait for that moment, and it really started to confront me regularly with standing on the one leg thing. And I got really embarrassed. And I went through quite a period of time, 4, 5, 6 months of really not standing on one leg, of doing everything possible to try and shake off what I thought was a rather embarrassing kind of image. But at the end of it, I suppose I got used to the fact that people still thought of me that way. They would even write about me standing on one leg when I knew that I hadn't done it, when I'd been really consciously avoiding doing it. It just became a thing they thought they saw me do. So these days I do it, and some of the time I'm aware of doing it for the gag. you know, and to satisfy the photographers who are there for the first, you know, sort of 20 minutes of the show. You give them the first 20 minutes to take the pictures, so you make sure you do a bit of this, you know, they've got it out their system, I've got it out of mine, then we can get on with the rest of it. But it's fun, you know, whatever.
How have your fans changed? How have the concerts changed over the years? I mean, you've been together a long time. Have the fans changed that much? Do you find that there are older people now coming to see Jethro Tull?
Well, there are some older people, but really the truth of the matter is I think that the audience looks very much the same as it always did. And bearing in mind the first shows I think we ever played in New York, for example, were at the Fillmore East supporting Blood, Sweat and Tears, who had a much more, shall we say, mature audience. So there we would have an audience that was maybe from its late teens through to 30, maybe even 40 years of age would be people who went to see Blood, Sweat and Tears, and in so doing saw Jethro. In so doing, isn't it nice to hear proper English?
It is.
In so doing.
Especially from a rock musician, believe me.
Saw Jethro Tull as well, and presumably if they liked that kind of thing, they would become our rather aging fans. But we had that spread. We also played at the Newport Jazz Festival. They thought we were a jazz group, you know. So again, terrific spread of social, ethnic, and age groups that was exposed to Jethro Tull in the early sort of tours.